Hello and welcome to my How the Beautiful Game Started. And that would indicate the how football and soccer started. Let's get started I'm going to start off with how it all began from the ancient times of soccer. Hello, this is the part that I wanted to show you guys about football history, also known as soccer football. Here in America, we like to call it soccer, of course, because there is American football, which is a completely different sport. Soccer, actually, the sport soccer that we all know about, the fun kicking one that we all know about, it actually originated from Britain, from England. That's why also in Europe, soccer is very popular. It probably has one of the best teams in the world. It's always European teams that usually are the best. Here it begins to talk about how it was back in the Aztecs that they had these type of rituals that they would use. They would even use rocks, to kick them around. Then we move around in China when they would play around, kicking the ball around. That's how it started. It's a great way. Here is another page that is a little bit gives you more of a clarification. Here it is, soccer in the ancient times. This is literally during the Greeks, Egyptians, and Chinese that they would play with the ball. That it involves feet and all that stuff. You can also think of it as how sports began like that. They began back in the days with their own ways. Some of them involved with rocks. Some of them could involve with really heavy soccer balls. They would also compare soccer to rugby. But then from there, as you know, rugby has a different type of ball material. And as here you can see, it says Britain is the home of soccer. And that's where it all began. And it all began here. Soccer began to evolve in modern Europe from the medieval period onwards. It is actually really great to think about it this way just because I'm a soccer fan, a big soccer fan. And they have different leagues, different clubs. And the leagues that I, of course, enjoy watching are the ones from Europe. From Mexico too, because I am Mexican, so of course I enjoy watching them. But from the European teams, they carry a lot of the skill. And it all makes sense because soccer originated from Britain, from Europe. Soccer also began to have different, they began to add soccer, if that makes any sense. So it started at public schools, and that was, as it says right here, in the 19th century. It happened in 1885. It says in the other one right here. In 1985 is when they began, and then again, that's when they began to pay them professionally. They started to have clubs. People were starting to really like the sport. They thought of it as this great entertainment because that's exactly what sports are. They entertain us, and also women. They got into it too, which is great because I love watching the women's soccer team. Us women supporting each other, love it, and women began in 1888 as well. The how soccer began, it's crazy. It began back in the ancient times. Greeks, Chinese, Egyptians, Aztecs, they had their own things. Aztecs even had rituals. That's where you can even think about, wow, soccer came from Aztecs having some rituals, and that's exactly what happened. But nowadays, the development of it is incredible because now, without a doubt, soccer is definitely like the number one sport in the world. And it says right here, soccer spreads worldwide. It tells you right here, it did not take long for the other European countries to adopt the British love for soccer. Leagues began popping up throughout the world, the Netherlands and Denmark in 1889, Argentina in 1893, Chile in 1895, Switzerland and Belgium, and it goes on. The list goes on. And just as our professor was talking about how the British invasion, we can think about it as the British invasion, but with sports-wise, just because soccer originated in Britain. It's incredible. Britain, a lot of things have came from England. I mean, we've got the Beatles, we've got these other great bands that we listen to, and soccer, just like the Beatles, has just hit our world. It's the number one thing that we want to either listen to and we want to watch. Soccer, incredible sport. I played it, love it. I watch it all the time. And the World Cup is actually going to come up again in 2022 because it is every 4 years. And as you can see, the first ever FIFA World Cup was held in Uruguay. It was in 1930, and there were 41 members of the FIFA at the time, and has remained the pinnacle of the soccer world ever since. Today, it boasts over 200 members, and the World Cup is one of the biggest events of the year. And since it is, an event that's literally, it happens every 4 years, so everybody's psyched about it. Wow, every 4 years we don't have that opportunity all the time. So when it comes, it's a great sport. It brings, if you really think about it, it brings the world together. Sometimes, yeah, we fight against each other just because it's like, hey, no, I go for Germany, yeah, well, I go for Argentina. But it's a great way to think about how the world came together ever since soccer began. And we got to take it all back to when it began with the ancient times. Now we're going to move on to me talking to you guys about different types of tournaments in soccer. I really wanted to add this on because it just adds on to how I'm so sorry, about how soccer evolved, how it just developed into from this ancient type of ritual things that we had back in the Greeks, Egyptians, Chinese, to this worldwide, very known, beautiful, bringing together everybody's sport. And here it is. I would love to show you guys the 12 best soccer tournaments around the world. These actually began, and we all know that the World Cup began back into the 1940s, 1930s. It began in Uruguay. The World Cup, you already know, it's one of the most popular events that we have. Here's a little picture of a couple at a Brazil game. We move on to the summer games, which are tournaments. It's great. With soccer, it breaks down into little pieces if you really think about it. We go to one of my all-time favorites, the UEFA Champions League. This is in the European Champions Club. It's a cup. All the clubs from Europe play against each other for that cup. It's every year. It's amazing. We go to the UEFA European Championship. This would indicate more of the international games. It could be, for example, Germany versus Spain, Spain versus Italy. Amazing. We go, of course, to the Women's World Cup. It is amazing. We got the international women's teams going against each other, going for the Women's World Cup. We then go on to the Copa America finals. These would be the international ones as well. And as like I said earlier, for soccer, it breaks down. It breaks down and it's amazing because it goes into its own little things. It can go into the Copa America finals. We go to the Copa Libertadores, which is another one for the South American teams. We go to the UEFA, Europa League. I'm so sorry, I'm trying to say it in Spanish. And it's the same thing as well. Africa Cup of Nations, the FA Cup, Copa del Rey, Asian Cup, and that's it. Okay, so just a little snippet of just a little view of the whole World Cup thing. I'm gonna move on to now showing you some videos of soccer just to show you guys or show the development and the involvement of soccer. So I found some amazing videos. I broke it down into 3 little categories. We've got goalkeeper saves, we've got defenders, and we've got goals. I'm gonna do 2 of the men league and I'm gonna do 1 of the women's league, of course. So we've got legendary goalkeeper saves, and I'm going to play a little bit of the clip. And then we're going to move on to top goals, and of course I chose our one and only, or not one and only, but our Alex Morgan. And of course you can hear the Beatles in the back just because it is ironic that this is in the Women's World Cup, France. It is ironic that the whole British invasion and now the soccer originating from Britain. I'm sorry about that. And then we've got defenders. These are older players, but they were amazing, legendaries. It's the I wanted to show some type of evolution, you know, where it began, how it became very famous. That's him being a great defender. With being a part of a great defender, it would also indicate, I wanted to add on, it would probably just indicate that you wouldn't play so dirty. You don't have to have the that not the, I'm so sorry. You don't have to just push, you know? That's why I wanted to show this. And also, Professor, you can hear the Beatles in the back just because soccer was originated from Britain, of course. Here it is. So it just, to me, it's just, you know, it has this ironic thing where it's like, wow, soccer, who invaded, you know, the whole world with its great sport, came from Britain. And we've got the same thing with the Beatles. So I just wanted to play that in the background.